Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. I am the Twisted Jedi, and in today's video, I am going to be starting my hero guides for Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2019. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the heroes one by one and discuss the best tactics and star cards for both Heroes vs Villains and Galactic Assault, so that maybe you guys can improve with some of these heroes. I know there's a lot of new players after the holiday season, and I know there's going to be more players coming to the game with the release of Dooku and Anakin. So what I'm going to do is start with Boba Fett today, and then one by one we're going to go through each hero, including the new heroes that get added to the game, being Anakin and Count Dooku. Now, Dooku is only about 10 days away, so he will definitely have a hero guide as soon as he releases, and I can get some footage and a little bit of playtime with him. Anyways, getting into Boba Fett today, his health is 550, which in my opinion should be a little bit higher. I think he feels very fragile and takes damage extremely quickly, and his health regen isn't the greatest. If you are playing Boba, he's not a head first hero like some of the lightsaber heroes can be. He definitely takes a little bit more skill and a little bit more caution. While flying around with Boba Fett and using his jetpack, you can be knocked out of the air quite easily, so make sure you don't spend too much time in the air and use the dodges while you're on the ground to keep moving. This is going to help you avoid taking too much damage from enemies, and when you're flying in the air, be aware of Wookiee warriors because their blaster bolts will knock you out of the air. All of these things are just a quick way to get you killed, so make sure you're very aware when you're flying around. Now, Boba uses the EE3 blaster, which fires in a 3-round burst and does moderate damage when hitting all 3 shots from the burst to the body. It wipes out infantry in roughly 2 rounds, but heavy you may need that third one just for a little bit more damage, and headshots score bonus damage, of course, as everyone else does. And when going against heroes, you absolutely want to aim for the head for the bonus damage. I know infantry you can knock them out in 2 shots, but with heroes you are going to have to do more damage, so make sure you keep moving, use the jetpack dodge, and aim for the head. Now, getting into Boba's abilities, the concussion rocket is his first ability, and that is the L1 button or left button on Xbox, as well as whatever you have it set to on PC. The concussion rocket shoots a projectile that dazes enemies in the vicinity of where it lands, and can also overheat enemy weapons if you have the blaster disabler star card attached, although I don't really recommend it because there are much better star cards that you want to be using. That I will discuss a little bit later in the video. His second ability, which is L1 and R1 if you're on PS4, is the For the Hunt ability. This ability reveals enemies in the nearby area for a short period of time, where they are revealed through the walls to not only you but your teammates as well. On top of that, Boba disappears from the enemy minimap radar and is given unlimited jetpack fuel while the ability is active. Now, this unlimited jetpack fuel can come in handy, and I will give you some tips with that later at the end of the video after I go through all the star cards, so make sure you guys keep watching. His third ability is of course the Rocket Barrage, and by far his best ability out of the 3. This allows Boba to fire down a barrage of rockets like it says, and pretty much destroy enemies in its way. It's very easy to kill infantry with this, but if you do aim for heroes as well, you can do a solid amount of damage, which is what makes Boba Fett viable in Heroes vs Villains. A hero with such low health and takes damage that easily definitely needs to pack a punch, and this is exactly where he does it. Anyways, getting into what star cards you should be using, and this is just my personal preference. Some players, depending on playstyle, may have a different star card lineup, but this is what I have found to be most successful for me. So starting off, we're going to talk about the cards you should be using for Galactic Assault. Now, Galactic Assault, you want to be moving a lot and you want to make sure you can regain your health. So the first card you want to be using is called Bounty Claimed. Now, this card is the health on kill card. Most of you should know how these work. Every time you get a kill, you will regenerate some health, and if you kill a hero, you will regenerate bonus health. That's the first card you should be using by far if you want kill streaks and you want to stay alive with Boba Fett. The second card you should be using is the Intense Barrage, which increases the rocket barrage to shoot 4 extra rockets, leading to more damage output and, seriously, more kills. Trust me when I say this card you want to have attached, because the extra rockets definitely pay off in the long run. The final card you should be using for Galactic Assault is Fuel Efficiency, which allows jetpack fuel to burn slower so you can keep yourself moving and avoid taking damage for longer. The longer you have access to your jetpack ability, the more mobile you're going to be, and it's going to help you in getting kills and also avoid being killed yourself. Next up, we're going to talk about the best star cards for Heroes vs Villains, and 2 of these are actually exactly the same, with the third one being different. The Bounty Claimed is still going to be attached, which is of course your health on kill card. The Intense Barrage for the extra rockets and bonus damage is definitely one you're going to need in Heroes vs Villains, and the third card you should be using is the AntiHero Rockets. rockets. This is going to give you bonus damage against heroes when using the rocket barrage, and that combined with the intense barrage star card is going to do a lot of damage to heroes. If you get a clean shot of all your rockets onto an enemy hero, most of them will almost be dead in one hit. Then you just follow them up with your blaster or a melee attack and you can take them out very easily. It takes a lot of practice to get good with Boba and how to aim his abilities. Rocket barrage is one that most people have trouble with, and I myself do occasionally miss a fair few shots and just completely potato a full round of rockets, so I have to wait for them to recharge. So mastering something like this is definitely something you want to aim to do if you want to be successful in Heroes vs Villains with Boba Fett. So now that I've talked about these star cards, I definitely want to give you guys some of my tips that I've found really help when you're trying to get good kill streaks or just stay alive as Boba. Now the first one is simple: always be moving. You don't want to be standing still, because with Boba's limited health and how quickly he takes damage, he can be killed extremely easily. So you want to make sure you're always checking your surroundings and do not let yourself get snuck up on. That brings me to the second tip. Not being snuck up on is the hardest thing to do sometimes, but make sure you're always checking your minimap. I know you're usually focused at looking at enemies or what's in front of you on the actual map, but make sure you're always checking your minimap. That little red bar in front of you is going to tell you if there's an enemy in front or behind, left or right, so you always know where to be looking. This is the quickest way to find people to kill and also to avoid being killed yourself, so make sure you've always got one eye on it, or just check it every couple of seconds to make sure you're not being snuck up on. The next tip is to use the For the Hunt ability as your jetpack fuel runs out for maximum flight time. So you may be on a very open map where you're flying around and you notice that your jetpack's just about to run out, and instead of dropping out of the sky where you could potentially be dropping into a group of enemies, you want to activate the For the Hunt star card, which gives you unlimited jetpack fuel until the ability is over. So this is a good way to keep yourself in the air for a bit longer if you need to find a safer spot to land, as when your regular jetpack runs out, you may be at a group of enemies. Speaking of enemies, do not charge at large groups of enemies. I know it may seem like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 5 kills here. No, it's not going to happen, especially with Boba Fett. Unless you get a super clean rocket barrage on a grouped up team of enemies, it's not going to happen. Boba needs to pick off characters one by one, and you need to do it in a way where you can avoid taking damage at all costs. Remember, he only has 550 health. I've seen officers melt Boba Fett in less than half a clip. If you get clean headshots, he is going down very quickly, so do not rush into large groups of enemies. The next tip is to use a quick dash left to right with the jetpack, similar to how you would roll with the infantry, but Boba dashes with his jetpack. This is much quicker and is definitely a good way to dodge blaster fire and make sure you get in position if you're trying to shoot an enemy that might be around a corner. The next tip is for when you're at close range and the melee attack from Boba Fett is actually with his flamethrower. It does a good amount of damage and can take out infantry in 2 hits. So if you find yourself landing with your jetpack and right in front of an enemy or right behind an enemy, try using the melee a couple of times. The backup 1-2 hit is really quick and you can wipe them out very quickly. It's also good on unsuspecting heroes while you're playing Heroes vs Villains. If you come up behind a hero and they're lightsaber fighting with someone else, jump in behind them and try hitting them with a bunch of melee attacks. It's going to do a lot of damage and really help out your team. Now the last tip I am going to give is to get used to using his blaster and shooting it from the air. The best way to get kills with Boba is to be able to aim from the skies, where people are going to have a hard time hitting you. If you can only aim from the ground, sure, you can be good, but you're never going to be great with Boba. You need to be able to fly around and hit shots, especially if you can hit headshots while aiming down. This is going to do a lot for your kill streaks and definitely make it much easier to play as the character. The last thing I want to drop in is some suggested maps, and I think Kashyyyk, Starkiller Base, Geonosis, and Naboo are the maps that I've had the most success on. All of these maps are great for him as they are predominantly outdoors, with big open areas for Boba Fett to fly around and utilize his jetpack. These maps are some of my favorite. You guys know Naboo is my #1 map out of all of them, and Boba can be really effective all the way up until inside the castle. The second phase isn't the greatest for him, but if you can manage to survive until the throne room, he can be very effective up there as well. And obviously in the first phase, it's like a big old playground for him, so make sure you use him if you get the chance and see how you go. Starkiller's great, being able to fly out onto the steps and hit everyone with the rocket barrage while they're not expecting it, because they're all too busy staring at the stairs heading into the second phase. That's a great time to use Boba, but once you move inside, he's probably not the best. As for Geonosis and Kashyyyk, they're both wide open, so go for it. Use him through the whole round and do as much damage as you can. Anyways guys, these are probably all the tips I have for the moment. If I have forgotten anything and you guys have any tips to give yourself, make sure you drop them down in the comments below and let me know what you thought of my tips equips and star card loadouts as well. On top of this, make sure you guys let me know which hero you want to see a guide on next, whether it be a light side or a dark side character. I will be doing all of them eventually, so make sure you cast your votes to see who you want to get next. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I am the Twisted Jedi, and I will see you in the next video. Smack a like on the video, and may the Force be with you always.
The Sith